Joining us right now is the former ambassador to Germany and former acting director of national intelligence and senior advisor for the American Center for Law and Justice, Rick Grenell. Rick, Iran, boy, I know you were involved in all of these issues, especially with Germany and the German relationship with Iran and as DNI. You got this report coming out now that John Kerry and apparently Robert Malley were in negotiations and discussions, I should say, with the Iranian officials while we were trying to use crippling sanctions, which worked. We're uniting the Middle East against this juggernaut of the Iranians. It's just, I mean, the duplicity, number one, of course, is rich to begin with. But the fact that they were doing it harms our national interest.
Yeah, and Jay, I really do not understand why John Kerry is allowed to do this, but others are not. Is it because he's a Democrat and there's a Democrat in the White House, his friend Joe Biden? But this is problematic because it's a slippery slope. Let's just say, for the record, that there are a whole bunch of envoys who have worked on issues in the past, and they can't be freelancing. We need to have one policy. For John Kerry to go to his friend, Foreign Minister Zarif, and to have conversations, because the trouble is that the Obama-Biden team had a fundamentally different policy in Iran than the Trump administration. And so having this back channel unapproved, undermining U.S. policy really creates a problem. Besides the slippery slope, it's illegal.
Well, it's interesting because John Kerry's in it as this climate advisor to the Biden administration, and Robert Malley is back playing a major role in U.S.-Iranian negotiations. They say they're willing to go back to the table. Now, there was interesting yesterday, Rick, that they pulled back a bit. I mean, when I say pulled back a bit, they want to go to the table, but they acknowledged, at least publicly, that the Iranians were nowhere near compliance with the agreement, which should be no shock to us, but also should be no shock to the Europeans who voluntarily went into this agreement and stayed.
Look, here's the dirty little secret. When the Trump administration approached the Europeans and said, look, this Iran deal is not working, can we come up with some ideas that would improve it? The Germans, the French, the British, everybody agreed the agreement's not great. It's pretty weak, and we don't have anytime, anywhere inspections. And we've seen violations. We've seen them lying. I mean, look no further than the Israeli locker, full of information showing that the Iranians had been lying. And so the Europeans know this. Here comes the problem. They don't know what to do about it because they still want to engage and have trade. I think that when you make consensus, when you make an agreement the goal, then anything can happen. And it's a weak agreement. It's certainly not beneficial to Americans. Lastly, I'll just say that we need to understand in America that the threat from Iran is more real for us and our allies than it is for the Europeans.
The Iranian policy that you all implemented, and again, I know you were heavily involved in this too, really has changed the shape of the Middle East. I mean, it's brought together we got 5 Arab countries now, predominantly Muslim Arab countries, in an accord, a historic Abraham Accord with Israel, but Iran was the focus of this.
Yeah, we've been very successful, and we were clearly undermined by John Kerry. But let's just talk about the hypocrisy for a second. Mike Flynn came in as the incoming national security advisor after an election. He was tapped with a transition. He had a phone call with the Russian ambassador. And in that phone call, the Democrats are now saying, through partially leaked documents, that he undermined the current administration of the Obama administration because he literally said, we've got one administration at a time. Let's go slow and let's talk about this UN resolution later. Okay? Fast forward to John Kerry. He's not appointed at all. He did what Mike Flynn did and worse, because he wasn't the incoming. He was just a citizen. And he went and he met with the Iranians. I saw him meet with them at the Munich Security Conference. They met in Munich. They met in other places. And the fact is why isn't the system coming in the media and the DOJ coming down on John Kerry like they did to Mike Flynn?
Well, let me tell you what we're doing, Rick, and I know you've been a big advocate of this. We have authored today a draft Freedom of Information Act request to the Department of State. It is filed on behalf of the American Center for Law and Justice. The request seeks records pertaining, this is what we say, pertaining to the U.S. Department of State's knowledge and efforts surrounding the breaking story that current government officials like former Secretary of State John Kerry, conducted shadow diplomacy with Iran and its surrogates, or even advancing pro-Iran causes, all while these officials are not members or representatives of the United States government. And you've just said that you were at the Munich conference and you saw it with your own eyes.
I saw John Kerry meeting with individuals. There's more information that I could say, but the reality is that John Kerry has been doing this because probably he would say the Iranians reach out to him, but that is absolutely no excuse. The undermining of the policy is unacceptable and it's illegal. And either we enforce it on people like Mike Flynn and John Kerry, or we're just going to abolish it and we're going to let people talk and try to undermine the policy. There's just no two ways about it.